I think around 2 years into like Pinterest, and the team size was around 20, 25 people, and everybody has like an idea like, oh, I'm a hardcore pinner. I think Pinterest should be about this and not about this. So everybody had like a vision for Pinterest, which kind of becomes a very tricky situation because like as a founder, you have a vision, but once you create your team and acquire people, your vision is going to change slightly a little bit because that's one perspective. But when you put 20 people in a room and ask them to think about the team, the product and the vision, it's going to slightly change. So that's when things get a little tricky, like, hey, should I do this or should I do that? Like it's hard, man. Like business is all about making decisions, like at the right moment and the right second, down to second. It's all about timing. I mean, if you were to build like a mobile phone today that has, if somebody were to build an iPhone today, it wouldn't sell like the first iPhone, right? Like the thing is, it's about the timing. Like they brought the first real web page down to phone. Back in the day, there was only GPRS pages. There was like no real web pages on the phone. So that's the thing they solved. But today, if you were to build a phone, like that's not enough because that's been solved. You need to create something bigger, better. So when your team is growing and you're like facing that problem, we faced a lot of problems. Like everybody had a vision. Like I've been using Pinterest right from like the first year, and like I feel like it's not closing the loop. Like Pinterest shows this stuff, beautiful stuff, and then what do? Like I pin this, and there's like a huge offline experience that Pinterest has no idea about. Like we have no idea. Like have you gone, did this project? Have you actually went and bought that item? Like have you got actually married? Like there's all these questions because we want to know. Like the number one thing I hear is like a lot of women like collect stuff on Pinterest for wedding, and we just want to know when to shut up because we are like, hey, here's more wedding stuff, here's more wedding stuff, and they got married over the weekend, and they're like, shut up, Pinterest, I'm out. So there's like all sorts of questions like this that we're trying to solve, and like, hey, what's the best way to like ask the user, nudge the user, what's their intention? So this is when like, in 2013, we invested like a big effort in data team. So all they do is like collect a shit ton of data, like measure every interaction. Not just like, oh, they visited the website, they pinned this stuff, they did a search, but down to like, hey, they scrolled, they stopped, they clicked on this pin. So that must be interesting in a feed of 100 things. That one pin caught their attention. So like, what's this pin about? Like, can we just annotate this pin? Like, this pin is about photography or outdoor or REI, or like, it could be about anything. It's like a myriad of things. So figuring out all that stuff requires a lot of experiments. So as a team, like we built something called an A/B experiment. So every employee can create an experiment. Today there's like thousands of experiments in flight. So instead of just like pitching and to Ben or like Evan or like product manager, like, hey, I want to do this for Pinterest. I think this is a perfect opportune moment, and we need to like cater the user's experience to blah. So instead of like making like a top-driven approach, like that's right, this is wrong, every employee has an opportunity to prove like, I think X is going to work because here's the data. Like there's nothing that's going to beat data, right? Like, hey, I ran this experiment, the engagement grew by 6%, people are pinning 10% more, they're coming back every day, here's some data. How about data? Like nobody can like say no to you, right? Like it's just like, hey, I'm going to tweak it to from 0.1% to 1% of core users, and like let's look at if these numbers are going to stand. And like, yep, the numbers are standing, so like sounds like a good idea. We should push it. Yeah.
Did you guys build an in-house tool for the experiment?
Totally. Yep.
Okay. That's awesome.
It was awesome for a long time, but I just have my own like perspective, which is like when you have thousands of things in flight, how can you actually measure one experiment's effect without like seeing the noise of other? I mean, it's great. Like I ran thousands of experiments, but initially it was amazing. Like here's a new landing screen and sign up flow. Tell me how it is doing. Like here's a conversion funnel. Here's how it's doing. So we built like a ton of dashboards. Like we got super valuable data. Like this, every English line, like copy, we are like testing A and B. Like every email we send, we test A and B and like see like what's performing better and like keep tweaking the knobs. So I mean, like I could say like that's how we kind of grew for the later half, which is more scalable version because we have no idea like how people in Silicon Valley react to a product compared to how people in Iowa like super slow, laid back countryside are gonna react to an English template email. So we tried a lot of things, and we kind of made some great decisions. I think like it's all about A/B experiments initially because you just don't know what's gonna work. But I'm just telling like maybe a company of like 20, 25 people, that's the way to go. But I would say if the company is like super small and like you still have not validated your idea, like I think you should build what you think is valuable and like hear the feedback from users, which is what we did. Like we went to the users, collected feedback, came back, put it into the loop, like made the product better, again shipped it, got more feedback. But like pretty much Pinterest today is all about A/B experiments. Like every feature, everything we build has like a knob. We just like push the update, but like we turn it off, and then like one day we turn it to like 0.1%. Oh, the app's crashing, okay, switch it off. Collect the crash logs, make it better, push another update, again tweak the knobs. So it's all about the knobs. So we ran a growth experiment where we have something called gift wrap. Like instead of just throwing people on these pages and like, hey, browse around, like we kind of guide them, nudge them, like, hey, there's more to see. Do you want to sign up? You don't want to sign up. You don't want to be hassled. I'm just here because a friend of mine shared this board on Facebook, and I just want to see the board, and I'm out of here. Okay, we respect that. You could just keep browsing, X off this thing, So experiments like this gave like tremendous growth because we are always at every stage holding the user's hand and like guiding them through our experience, like how we want them to experience Pinterest. And we built a new tab called Network News. Like we always believed Pinterest is all about following the best pinners in any interest, like photography. I like photography. Like I just give a lot about like the best photographers. What are they doing today? What kind of cameras? What techniques they're using? So if I could just collect all the data in like one tab and like here's the summary. Like I just don't have time today to just like go through feed and like look at a lot of stuff and like, oh, that's one pin I like. If you could just like provide me a summary, like a small curated version of what happened, that would be amazing, which is what this tab was about. Like this grew engagement by a lot. This was once again also an experiment by like the growth team. Like, hey, I think people want to know what their Facebook friends are doing on Pinterest, and like we just don't have a way to do that right now because they have to like go through tons and tons of home feed pins to figure out that's my friend. Oh, she pinned about babies. Like, maybe she's having a baby, or like she's expecting a baby, or something like that. So kind of made like the simple version where you can click and like see what every user is up to. People love stalking. That's why Facebook is big, right? Another thing that like I never expected was like email deliverability. Like we just like ship a ton of emails and like hope that it reached the inbox, but the truth is like there's only like 75 or 80% of these emails actually making their way to inbox. So we have another two-member team like that only works on email and the deliverability. So that's another valuable lesson. And like also we need to respect like the spam and all, like how fast are we sending emails, and like people get pissed like, hey, you just like emailed me in the last 10 minutes, again you're emailing me about some recommendations. So you should like kind of listen to your users and like build all those features. So after a while, like as I said, like we need to guide every user very carefully into your experience, the experience that you want to deliver users. So we like brought in education, like, hey, you just signed up, here's what it is. Like you can discover stuff, and like they keep swiping and we nudge them and like guide them to every step. Like this, I think this is how like Slack basically like cracked it. Like Slack is nothing but glorified IRC, right? Like every step they just have these glowing things like click on this, you can like go to this room. So it's a beautiful experience. Like I enjoy using Slack just because like everything is so well explained and like well documented and great support. So during sign up, like this performed better, but over time, like over the next 1 year, like there's a lot of like churn that showed up. So we were like, okay, I think we need to redesign or rethink the entire sign up loop. Why are people like just falling off? Again, a ton of research, brought a bunch of pinners and like, hey, why don't you get it? They're like, I don't know, like I don't think I found the stuff that I like, or like none of my interests are being showed here. I'm into a specific kind of cooking, but I can't seem to find that kind of cooking on Pinterest. And why is that? Again, a bunch of like whiteboarding, prototyping, A/B experimentation, and like so we had to like come up with like new there, like guiding, like we completely take over your screen and like grab your attention, like, hey there, since you just signed up, click here, just one button, there's anything else is unclickable, and like guide through them, like, hey, what are you interested in, blah, 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 like, and then like follow, like we force follow, or like you could skip any one of it, but like, so definitely educations like this actually make your product better, enhance it, and like, we retain the users, which is most important. So more glorified versions of like educations, like click on it, and like the entire the UI is like paused until you click on it.